Very good evening to you all, and welcome to Frank on Camnet, wherever you are in the world, in Africa, and of course in Zambia. Festive greetings to you, and this is the last show of the year 2021. What a year it's been. What stands out in terms of economic issues? That is the thrust of our show, this evening with my friend, my colleague, my former workmate, broadcaster, economist, business consultant, name it, he's got it. My good friend, CHIBAMBA KANYAMA, good evening and
Ambassador, my pleasure to have a last interview with you for the year.
Absolutely, and a very special end of the year because December the 30th, I clock exactly 51 years.
In broadcasting?
51 years in broadcasting.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how do you feel to have some of us your products?
I'm overwhelmed. People keep on talking about why I've not been honored. I really don't think about it, to be honest. And I'm being very honest as a Christian. My biggest honor is to see people like you who I've worked with, we've made it up there, but your feet are still firmly on the ground.
Amen.
Very important.
Amen.
When somebody stops me and says, Ambassador, that show you did lifted me. I think that is the greatest honor. That for me is the greatest honor.
Amen.
To make a difference.
Absolutely.
To the people of Zambia.
Thank you.
Let's talk about what stands out in 2021 in terms of economic issues.
It's the change of the economic players, the change of the drivers of economic policy. That is what stands out because a lot of things have happened in the year, but the change of government means that there's been a transition. It has meant many other things, policy, the risk profile for the country, the issue of managing the other, what they call the elephant in the room, the debt, issues of IMF, issues of just others positive, of course, issues of increase in fuel prices. So everything happened in 1 year, but it all points to the transition. The change of government, to me, is the major event for the year 2021.
Did you envisage that? Did you see the change of government coming?
Yes.
You did?
I did.
What were the pointers?
I knew that the debt issue would have serious implications on public perceptions. I worked for the IMF, and I could see some of the back to office reports. These are very highly confidential reports. And they'll show you the anxieties among the policy shapers to make that decision, what we call the real killer decision. And the fear was about if we implement these policies, we will lose the political mandate. So they delayed making the decision that this new government is doing today. And I kept advising, and I did advise on the Facebook page 3 years ago. I said, if I was President Lungu, I would say, I would rather lose the election, but make the right decision.
Absolutely.
So that even if you lose the election, you have put Zambia on the right trajectory. And that's what I posted at one time, because I knew the longer we take in making that crucial decision to reposition the economy of the country, the more we're heaping trouble into the future. And it will build up in communities, in households, among people, among students, in trade unions. General populace will begin to see that something is not working well. And I saw it. I have engaged a lot with international investors, by the way. Have been one of the leading consultants in Zambia in order to gauge sentiment and predict some outcomes. And one of those interviews I had, well, 3 interviews I had just before the elections. One was organized by Barclays London, where they brought over 100 fund managers across the world to ask me questions. To give them predictions of the election results and what would happen later. When they asked me whether I foresaw the change of government, I said very confidently, I see a change of government. They said, by what margin do you think then the opposition will win? I said 55%.
Yeah.
But they said, but the indicators we have here, the polls, information we have is different from what you are telling us. I said, I know this because I'm also a journalist. I'm not only able to gauge sentiment. I have been there in 1991 as a broadcaster, like when we were with you, we are able to see things happen. And what we are seeing now is exactly what we saw before, the level of public discontent. Usually when you see a possible change of government, people don't normally speak, they don't come forward. And that silence tells you a lot, that people are waiting for the ballot day when they want to cast their vote and deliver a mandate for the country. So I saw this happening, and I missed it a bit in terms of the margins of winning, but I got it right. I also did predict who would be the Minister of Finance at that particular time. I even engaged him. He was in Calabo campaigning, and I wanted to know what policies he would have once he's appointed minister. Although he was talking in terms of UPND winning, I knew that he would be Minister of Finance. And I have conversations on the text at what he foresaw, including the issue of delivering on the IMF within 3 months of UPND in power. So I saw this happening. I make a lot of predictions, and most of them have been very, very correct.
All right. Having said that, why was PF so confident of winning? That's part of the question. The other part of the question is, why did the pollsters, some of them, get it wrong? Were they just basically politicking?
I remember that question being asked. I said, my 55% is based on the elections being free and fair. So it's possible some people may have thought, even if it went the other way, it would still be manipulated. I'm not a very good, I'm a good political analyst, but I really like to talk politics. So I'm a bit uncomfortable answering that question here, but I can still say something.
Please.
That most of the people based it on the infrastructure investment. The fact that there was huge infrastructure in Lusaka. We have had these flyover bridges, and very good road networks in Lusaka. And it's hard to meet that. Infrastructure in Lusaka has really been very, very good. But when I saw issues like indebtedness of the civil servant, I knew there's trouble. Because people are not so much about infrastructure. People are about jobs. Are the jobs being created? And jobs cannot be created if your growth levels in the country are subdued. When the interest rates are very, very high, they cannot borrow, they cannot expand. When the budget deficit is very high, your debt servicing ratios are really high to the point where you're not spending on anything else. In fact, even the infrastructure was on debt. So it created a lot of anxiety among the people. But I think those in power were very confident that they controlled the media, they were connected to the people, this infrastructure, and apart from that, they had money, and that was sufficient to give them the confidence that they would pull through. And also looked at their major, fiercest rival, may have come from a region not expected to take over government. They really felt this person had lost 5-6 times. Why should he win now? But my own analysis was different. I looked at 2016 elections. That is still a very debatable result. And I said, if you're going to believe the results of 2016, then you'll be misleading yourself. I still believe that the 2016 results said something.
Absolutely.
Said something, and some people know about what happened in 2016. And I was trying to advise that, look at that, don't take it for granted, that the results will turn out to be like 2016. Actually, 2016 is debatable, though the results are already announced. But Frank, I'll be very uncomfortable to talk politics here. I'm more comfortable with
We'll go to the economy very, very shortly. But was the incarceration of HH, was the throwing of tribal brickbats, at him, violence play into their hands? of the opposition.
I know you are really pulling me into this.
Yeah.
But I hope people will understand me. I don't want to be perceived like I'm a political speaker. That image, I don't want it to be part of me. But I'll tell you this from now a journalist's point of view. It had a slight role. And I want to say this. It had a slight role. Not even social media had an impact on the results. I know people will say, no, social media had an impact on HH's winning. Actually, it didn't. It didn't. It just affirmed. Social media just affirmed what was already on the ground.
Right.
People were just fed up with cadres.
Absolutely.
They were just fed up with the governance of the country.
Yeah.
So they didn't care whether whoever it was. People began to look at who can deliver, who can help us come out of this. So they are looking at, we don't care who this one may be from, a tribe we don't accept or could have whatever, but as long as he can take us from this, we don't care what he'll be, but we just but can deliver us from this. So they were really voting for somebody who deliver them from a problem.
Brilliant. All right. Let's now move to your favorite,
Thank you.
Very well. All right. Let's move systematically or methodically, like HH says, and start with the date. It was irresponsible, reckless. I know the numbers that have been touted by PF is 10, 12, 14 billion dollars. It's much more than that. How did PF get to that point?
It's a variety of reasons. There are three main reasons here. The first one was that data was available. PF came into power at the time when the global market, the commercial side of the market had access capital. And they didn't have sufficient vehicles of investment globally. No. The other markets were saturated, were no longer growing, Asian markets everywhere, and there was this excess cash by bondholders. And bondholders, people want to know, these are pension funds. These are people who just manage pension funds of individuals in Europe. And the pensioners are expecting a return when they retire. So this money must grow. It must be matched between the liability and maturity. So to grow this, you are always on a hunt for any prospective avenues globally to grow this money. They've been participating in government treasury bills or government paper in different countries, but returns were low. So they have these pension funds across the world that were looking for higher return, and the best avenue then was sovereign debt, lending to countries. So we are not the only ones who borrowed. So there's this money available, okay? And Zambia, here's this market in Europe that's offering this, go and present a paper and sell yourself, you get this money. That's why if you remember, former governor of the Bank of Zambia, Dr. Caleb Fundanga at Radisson, I was actually part of the speaker at the conference. He said, the first Euro bond of 750 million, the first one, we got it without a plan. We didn't even know what we wanted to use the money for. That's why it was all thrown around. The railways here. There was no real there was no plan. And it's more like the Kaloba where people are borrowing just because there's this man dangling money. Usually when money is available, people feel like I must access it without a plan. And if you access money without a plan, it destroys you. That's the principle of life. Never access money without a plan. You access money, however easily accessible it will destroy you. And that is what happened. So there was availability of money. That's why we ended up where we are. Number two, there came the Chinese, who wanted to invade Africa, including Zambia, with different infrastructure projects. And they would pre-finance you. They would actually say, we don't care about you having money or no money, provided you can give us an opportunity. We want to build your roads, we want to build bridges, we want to do your airports, we want to do a lot of things. We know you've got no money, but we will give you the money, not in cash. We'll invest in your infrastructure. We'll go to export India, whatever, China's export, there's a bank there which they would approach. We actually visited the bank when I was at NBCDG for digital migration. They took us there. And here they are saying, look, digital migration, how much? 270 million.
Take it.
Take it. When we'll do it for you, then we'll ring-fence the income. So that we get paid back. So here you need infrastructure. You need an airport. You don't really need this airport, by the way.
No.
But here's a guy who says, I'll do it for you. And you'll pay me later. So you get this humongous airport with low traffic in anticipation that if we put this, maybe investment in traffic will follow. So you have got this underutilized infrastructure, but built because you got access to a funder who is going to construct it for you, and they build and operate, you get it. So that's how we ended up in this phase. The third one is related to the second one. This is where the ministers, and this is where the problem arose. Most of the ministers were approached by the Chinese to sign documents of debt without the information, without finance minister knowing about it. So you find 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 2017, many of them came to realize that what they had signed for and even embarked on constructing was illegal. Because only the finance minister should have signed that.
Absolutely.
That's why there was a very bad reconciliation. The figures of debt from one side are saying this is how much Zambia owes, and then the Minister of Finance will give you a small figure, because Minister of Finance would only communicate their money that has been allocated, that the debt that has now sat on their books. This is the debt that is on the balance sheet of government. This is what we have signed for. So what has been signed for and what is really contracted, they're different things. They're not speaking to each other. And that was the problem that we had. And IMF could not even come on board and say, reconcile that debt, because we know that numbers are not speaking to each other. That's when most of the Chinese firms realized they had signed Congole with wrong people. So they all came under Margaret Manakatwe as Minister of Finance. That's when most of those were re-signed as debt. That's when you also the debt levels rose for Zambia, and that was the reason, because there was no speaking to each other. People were so much in a hurry to sign these documents. I don't know for whatever reason, but they were doing it. For some other reason, they were signing them, and that's why we are where we are today.
The date got out of hand. Why didn't the Minister of Finance? Why didn't the President say, look, this is going to give us a lot of problems. Let's suspend, getting more debt. Why didn't they do that?
I think it's information lag. Information lag. At times, the Minister of Finance wasn't even aware these things were happening. We were taking those trips. I remember taking those trips to China, though nothing was signed at the time, but we were taking those trips to China for digital migration without the Minister of Finance even knowing that there was this thing happening. And I do remember on digital migration, I don't know what happened later, but digital migration, people alerted me from Namibia and Botswana that what you are about to sign for in Zambia is just too high.
Absolutely.
And we
could have done it cheaper.
Actually, we got some independent assessor who gave us that what you want to achieve, you achieve it in less than $100 million. And I remember going to the Minister of Finance, who directed to the Secretary to the Treasury, with the Minister of Finance then, Minister of Information, Mr. Mansa Kapea. We went to meet to Secretary to the Treasury to communicate that we can actually do digital migration without borrowing from China. For $99 million, including community radio stations, television stations. And then I remember, that was before I left ZNBC, I remember Secretary of the Treasury saying, actually this is the end of year. We have seen that there are funds that have not been spent. And their calculations showed that we had more than we needed. But Zambia in 2013 was capable of financing digital migration without borrowing. But I know there was something that happened shortly after. Just 2 weeks after I left ZNBC, we had a contract that had been signed with a Chinese firm to do digital migration. So those are questions that Zambians are asking, and we are seeing ourselves with this particular huge debt in the country, where the actual, and this is where the crisis really is, Frank, where the actual spent money is perhaps, I'm using the word perhaps, but it can be quantified, is perhaps 33% of what is owing. So, because when you have a project, if people understand net present value, you are calculating what the worth of this investment will be over, say, 3, 4, 5 years. So you calculate and what is the kind of return to give you, so that it gives you back what you borrowed plus a profit on it. Most of these projects will never give a return worth the investment into them. The reason is that the amount which is sitting on the books is not the actual amount that went into the investment itself. It's just a fraction. So you are milking this cow that doesn't have enough milk because you underfed it, but in your books you are saying you overfed it.
I'll be coming to corruption very shortly, because that is also coupled by corruption. But before we do that, did the Chinese deliberately capture us or push us in the corner? I'm sure the Chinese knew that some of these dates won't be paid. But at the same time, they're business people. Were they looking for something at some stage to get, what they poured into this country? They can't just, let their money being wasted, being spent recklessly.
Chinese investment, difficult to explain from the context you have put it, but let me put it this way. China in business. Chinese here to do business like they are in other country. These are private companies competing with public companies. You have got ZTE competing with Huawei. ZTE is owned by government. Huawei is private sector. And Chinese government allows them to go and compete in every country the way they should. But in almost all the contracts of China, every investment of China, they will never give you the money. I do remember Minister Mutati, when he was just appointed the Minister of Finance, I was still at the International Monetary Fund. We had breakfast together, and we were looking at options. And I remember him saying, well, if IMF deal fails, we'll get money from China. I said, China will never, ever give you cash. And they have a reason for that. They'll never give you cash. They'll always give you a loan, but that loan is, they are winning already just by the contract. Because they allow their own companies to come and do the construction, their own companies. They'll bring mostly the Chinese people to do the work. So they're employing their people, they are giving a contract to their own company, they're the ones who are going to execute it here. And apart from that, even the materials, unless those that they have to find in Zambia, like soil, that one they'll get it, Jimstang, whatever, they'll get it from Zambia. Whatever can be used for that construction to also come from China. So the value chain, the supply chain impact is Chinese favored. It's already wired. It's really wired already. In other words, it's already rigged to favor the Chinese government. And I'm speaking this on television. I can say this because I can justify it. You can look at digital migration. Where are the components coming from? Who did digital migration? Now we even have Star Times building right where ZNBC is. These are questions that people should be asking. So I may not directly answer your question, but most of the Chinese investments are wired in a way to favor Chinese investment. And they'll not do something for you for free. Look at all labor, most of the labor disputes, labor protests you see on television, they are with Chinese investments.
I'll be talking about how this government should be handling the date situation. Let me ask you a hypothetical question before we get into that. If the PF was still in government today, how would the Chinese have treated the current date and perhaps future date?
This is whether it's PF in government today or now PND in power. The treatment of that date began under PF. They're the ones who hired the Lazard Ferrer, the debt advisors. They also brought Highgate, the debt communication engagers, who are also part of the whole process. So the actual communication and discussion, setting the debt levels, negotiations were really prompted by the PF government. So the process began before the new government came in place. So the treatment the issue of treatment arose during the PF time. At the time, government defaulted. Government defaulted on the coupon payments in November last year and defaulted again in March this year. Okay, 42 point something million, then 56 or something, I can't remember the figures. But we defaulted twice within a space of 4 months on the coupon payments. And the issue the Minister of Finance said, among the main reasons, was we want to treat all creditors the same. And in this case, they felt perhaps that the Eurobond payments were due to the debt bond holders, who are mostly European investors, but Chinese were also demanding to be paid their money. So the Chinese began to sense that we need our money back early enough, and they wanted fair treatment as well on the debt repayments. The contention, though, is in terms of auditing this debt, do we really owe them that much? And the same Lazard and Highgate, I'm very sure there's no actual confirmed information here. This is my speculation. They're the ones who released the final list. It was a lot of work which began under PF, except UPND won't acknowledge it. But it began under PF to reconcile the debt. It has been a lot of work to arrive at 44 different creditors to Zambia, including the amounts owed to each one of them. The question is that really what we owe? People are even asking questions. We owe, like Mikalile, $301 million US. How did we arrive at that? Who lent the money? And so those questions people are asking them. The transparency of debt. So what has really been lacking is, have we been dealing transparently with debt? So this government said we shall communicate the information, and so they released that list and communicated who we owe, and leaving for the people to ask questions which haven't yet been answered. How did we come to all these individuals? You know, because even in the contracting debt, you want to be sure Parliament is aware, but Parliament was not aware. How did we owe this? What did they supply? Did we go to individuals and say lend the government money because it's broke? Or did these individuals supply something and then we converted it into debt for government because we failed to pay? So these are questions that I think should be answered under the transparent arrangements of the new government now.
Absolutely. All right. Corruption, will wait a little bit. Let's talk about the biggest resource earner of the country, and that is the mining sector. Okay. I mean, yes, we have the data, but the copper price was soaring. They're very high. One, did we manage the mine? Did the government manage the mining sector properly, economically, business-like? Why didn't we benefit from the soaring, copper prices? Your take on that?
This is a very sensitive one, Frank, because I can stand here and somebody will give me contrary information, because we don't have a full picture of what has happened in the mining sector. We have had 2 mines now repossessed by government, KCM, because government felt there was no transparency in the way this mine was operating, that it was cheating. Unfortunately, we took over, but there are other questions there. Okay. Then we have gone into Mopani. Mopani was repossessed not because government wanted to possess it, but because of the owners of the mine decided to prioritize something else, and they were abandoning the Zambian operation for something else, and the government couldn't let those employees go, throw them on the street. So government decided to move in and finally agreed to 1.5 billion US dollars, okay, and paid $1. Really, that's the worth amount. That's $1 which government paid them. So we have had these mines, but there are other mines that are operating really well. The tug and war, the question really is about the tug and war battle between government and the mining sector. And there are 3 things here. Number one is the feeling that mining companies are using what you call creative accounting to avoid, not to evade, but to avoid paying due taxes. I'm using the word due taxes to government. So creative accounting happens many ways. Multinationals all over the world are very good at creative accounting. We have worked for companies, I worked for a company, multinational, that registered a Zambian brand. This is a brand which is Zambian by name. It's Zambian. They buy it. They buy that brand, and then they register, patent the brand into their head office in the Netherlands, and then Zambia is paying $5 million every year. This company now is paying $5 million every year just for that brand, which is a Zambian brand, which they bought, but they are Zambian now, and that way it enables paying less tax, because you are now saying on your balance sheet, on your income statement, you are saying we paid $5 million to pay for using this name to operate in Zambia. The name that they bought, which is Zambian, but they bought it just for the sake of that. So that when it comes to declaring taxes, you deduct the costs, and the payment to that brand is part of the cost. So you're not paying tax. So at the end of the day, you find the company not paying anything. All it pays to government is VAT. No tax, but VAT. Income tax zero, VAT it's paying, because VAT is not its money. It's money by you who buys and so forth. So most of these international companies have had challenges on true declaration of taxes due to government. Now we have had over time now reports by civil society organizations, NGOs. These are international NGOs like Oxfam, and we have done independent audits, and they come up with reports that the mining companies haven't actually been paying due taxes to government. They have been evading, especially on gold. You know, gold has been the major part where they declare copper but not gold sales. Okay, but they are not very conversant in it. But I can just give you what I know. And the second part of it has to do with VAT refunds. And government has confirmed that yes, they owe these mining companies VAT, which is real big money. And to take us time to dismantle this debt. So the mining companies have a good complaint against government that you have not refunded us for importations and everything where we are supposed to be refunded for the machinery, and you kept this money. There's an opportunity cost on our own money. We could have done more on this money to create more employment and reinvestment, but you're not refunding us in time. So the mining companies equally have a case against government. But the major one, which is the latest figure, is that you are taxing us double. This is what now is the major contentious issue. Where mining companies saying, look, we are paying you mineral royalties. As far as we are concerned, mineral royalties are a cost to us. So when we come to paying corporate income taxes, that figure we pay you already should be considered a cost to us. So it should be deducted before we declare what should be taxed. So government the discussions took place in May, and I consider the May discussions having resolved a lot of issues to do with the mining sector. A lot of things were resolved because those government technocrats and mining sectors and mining companies sat together to resolve the issues of the mines and came to an agreement. And one agreement was that the money that they pay in mineral royalties should be deducted before you declare your tax obligation to the government. This is the contentious issue, which is going to lead to some losses on the part of government in terms of revenue. But the mining companies have a curse. They say, the moment you do that to us, we shall take advantage of the high copper prices, because now we shall be attractive enough to go to capital markets, to go to banks, to borrow more, because now we are more profitable having that concession, more profitable to embark on new projects. And in fact, one of the mines, CHIBAMBA, I think, committed $2 billion US. If you do this, we shall commit this amount of money starting 2022 to expand production, create new jobs for the country. So government has bought into that story, and that's why I find the 2022 budget has that element of the deductibility of mineral royalty taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's move to COVID before we get on to corruption. Was this an economic shock? And in saying so, were the policies, mitigating policies put in place adequate enough, to cushion, economic, challenges as a result of COVID?
This is where I really credit the PF government. One of the things that where they really showed very positive response was on the COVID. Remember, we had about 2.7 shrinking in growth, minus growth of about 2.7% last year in 2020. This hit us hard. But government responded very quickly with the Bank of Zambia offering the 10 billion kwacha COVID fund to allow companies to borrow at 17.5%, far lower than commercial banks would lend. And I can assure you a lot of companies access to that. And I have evidence because I sit on boards, and some of the companies I sit on boards borrowed. Okay, very concessional rate. And it was a huge relief for many companies. Somehow, it kept companies operate and remain afloat. Because a lot of them had lost business by about 33%. Tourism sector, the hotels and all these, they closed, almost others closed. Others like Southern Sun, Livingstone, or is it Avani, would have maybe one client for 2 weeks. Now, can you consider, look at that, you have borrowed money to invest in this project, suddenly you don't have plans for 1 whole year. So the impact was severe. And you saw that in January this year, government responded further because of the escalation in the prices. Prices just began going. Government zero-rated imported fuel and diesel. They removed 16%, leading to a loss in terms of revenues of 3 billion kwacha. You know, it's quite significant when you look at it like that. So that was another response by government. Now, so I thought that government worked quite well to mitigate on this impact of COVID. We still have the after effects, but the benefit was that because of those measures, by the second quarter of this year, we registered an 8% growth in the economy. Okay. Yeah. So 8% growth in the economy plus the PMI, this is the Private Sector Management Index on confidence in Zambia, it also shot to nearly 50.1%. So this tells you that the measures somehow reversed the misfortunes. But what affected, of course, another positive, of course, was government also responded because of the shocks in the monetary policy, that most of the investors were looking for safer havens to invest their money in the dollarized markets because of COVID. They were looking for safer havens, so they began to pull out of the local market. They were selling off the bonds, the local bonds here, and you saw the kwacha losing value so much. And government again responded very quickly, by ensuring mining companies started to declare their taxes in dollars, not in kwacha. That happened, and we suddenly had Bank of Zambia with about $600 million pumping into the bureaus and to support the kwacha. So I think the response was quite good.
The foreign exchange was almost stabilizing, and the kwacha was getting stronger, at least on the surface, at a time when the economy was not that good. Was somebody manipulating that?
Well, there are many things that happened, but what we can give evidence to was that because of the dollarization of tax payments by mining companies, Zambia, Bank of Zambia suddenly had dollars to support. So there was quite some significant dollar into the market to support. And something also happened around there. The coupon rates, the yields jumped to about 33%, 35% in terms of Bank of Zambia securities, 25%, which were benchmarked quite highly internationally. So you find that between June and July, the inflows increased. Some people are saying, no, it was our own money that came in directly. That one, I have no evidence for it, but people can still speculate around it. But there was that money that just came before elections to support participation in the Zambian securities. And you had an oversubscription, suddenly. You had oversubscription into the government securities, so much dollars coming in, and suddenly had an appreciation of the kwacha. So the Bank of Zambia, yes, can agree, they pumped in dollars into the market, and then you had this money coming in into the economy through the government securities, through the commercial banks, and it supported the supply for the dollar.
The Bank of Zambia started buying, gold. A good thing?
That was another good initiative. I'm not very conversant in the issue of gold, but it's one great initiative because you look relatively, it's the best hedge you can have. Gold is the best hedge to manage possible fluctuations. If you've got gold in your own country and you are able to access it at a certain price, you hold it as a central bank, it gives confidence to the market, because they're not only measuring your statutory reserve ratios in terms of actual dollars you have invested somewhere. But by the way, at the beginning of the year, our statutory reserve ratios had really dropped to about 1.2 billion US dollars, which was less than 2 months import cover.
Yeah.
And it affected investor confidence, because including the creditors began to panic. And so when you have got dollar reserve as well as a central bank, it kind of assures the market that in case of the worst case scenario, there is a fallback by the government. There's a fallback in terms of selling off these gold. So it worked quite well and at the right time for Zambia.
I did make reference to the copper prices having really shot up, during 2021. Did the country benefit? I didn't see much benefit.
The only benefit you get, and that's the argument that mining companies have brought forward to government, saying, look, because of the deductibility factor, that we have little remaining for us. You're not refunding us in time for the VAT, we can't expand operations, and then we have little money remaining according to them because you are taxing us double. So we can't expand operations to leverage the high copper prices. So whereas countries like Chile, which are in a position to exploit growth in demand with this electrifying of motor vehicles now and so forth, the demand for copper is increasing. We are not fully leveraging this because of our high operational costs. But we can mitigate this. We can absorb the high operational costs if your government comes in and remove that double taxation. We can access cheaper capital to now expand operations. And this is the argument by the mining company that come next year, 2023 going forward, you begin to see now an expansion in production of copper to take advantage of the high copper prices. Though that has been one argument. But we have really benefited somehow because the sales this year we almost reached 1 million. Yeah, actually we did reach 1 million metric tons production. And the higher the copper, in terms of production, the higher the output of copper, the higher the mineral taxes. Yeah. That's how the Bank of Zambia was able to have that much money. And Bank of Zambia even had luxury of declaring a dividend to government. Well, it has been doing that every year, but this year was the highest it ever did. So we have had such a double benefit because of copper prices.
From all these,
and in fact, if it wasn't for these high copper prices, the impact of COVID would have been much, much worse than we have experienced this year.
We could get even more money from these, minerals if we added value, which has been talked about so many times, John. But why haven't we put, factories in place that can add, value to all these, minerals instead of exporting raw materials?
This question, I know everybody talks about, everybody, including the president. I don't think it is as simple as that. Number one, my take is that the copper industry is internationally rigged. Okay.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, it is rigged in pricing, it's rigged in everything, and you have to really have a very firm strategy to counter that as a country. That's number one. But I won't say more about it. Yeah. Number two, we have done those initiatives before. The question is, why haven't we maximized value? I'll give you two instances. 2006, President Mwanawasa traveled to Egypt, and when he went there, he found that there were these cables being manufactured, transformers, and they said, this copper, by the way, Your Excellency, is coming from Zambia. You mean this copper, all this cabling, everything? He says, it's your copper. It's your copper we get from Zambia. President Mwanawasa said, no. I don't want us to be exporting raw copper to you anymore. I want you to come and invest in Zambia. And he put a team of people to study that. And I was among those people who was to do that project. ZESCO, NAPSA, ZISC, ZCCMH. We came together and we traveled to Egypt about 3 times, went to Sudan to see what they have done, El Saudi, electrometers, transformers and everything, cabling. And we have El Saudi electrometers in dollar. I don't think it's performing to that high level. To try to manufacture that copper here. But even if they come here, it is not our own engineers. It was engineering coming from Egypt. In fact, in our proposal as we are signing those contracts, we said we need the engineering, the thinking capacity, the transfer of knowledge I remember one of our friends, Kelvin Kasonkomana from Zescot, was very adamant on it, saying, look, we can't sign this until you let us know how you do it.
Absolutely.
So that we can transfer that knowledge. Yeah. And that was wired. I don't know whether we have got capacity. But we also have another company, Zamefa? Zamefa has been in the industry for a long time and has been registering losses because of the international, your own copper, which you manufacture here, and your own copper being manufactured, going out of the country, and it has these cables, finished cables. The one imported is cheaper in Zambia than the one from Zamefa. And when you talk to Zamefa, they'll talk about taxes, they'll talk about this and the other things which have to do with government policy. So a lot has to happen for that value addition to take place.
Economic zones, why haven't they worked sufficiently enough to enhance economic activities?
I'm not an expert in economic zones, Frank. I haven't really taken much effort to study how they function. I know how they function, of course. But the way I understand economic zones, they benefit the country twofold. Creation of jobs for the people, creation of revenues, because economic zones are not supposed to, the ideal economic zone should manufacture for export, not for the local market. Government has begun to attend to most of these structures that make our products from economic zones still uncompetitive out there, despite them not paying taxes that they should pay, but it's still very uncompetitive. And I know one case study which government has attended to it now in the budget. Apparently the 2022 budget has responded to most of these bottlenecks. And one of them has to do with what is this company that makes tiles? It's under controversy, a lot of controversy. It's Chinese-owned company. And what would happen is some South African companies are selling the same tiles here, and they buy them from the same company. They buy from the same Zambian company, go and rebrand, and they rebrand in South Africa and sell in our outlets here, though they are made in South Africa. Actually, they are made here. But there's a difference here. Why is it that your tiles are still higher than the same tile made by the same company but rebranded? So the Minister Msokotwane has attended to all those things in 2022. Let's see how it comes out in 2022, because he has addressed economic. All right,
we'll be back with that after the break. But before we talk about where this government should be heading to in terms of economic recovery after the break. But let's quickly deal with the elephant in the room, corruption. Why on earth did it become a norm? Why did the government, the president, the security agencies fold their hands with so much corruption, which had a huge dent on the economy, CHIBAMBA? Why?
Corruption, it doesn't just happen. Corruption comes in many ways. Number one, it's a value. Corruption is a value. It's the way you are brought up. It's your nature. It's your character, personality. Whether you like it or not. There are many of us here who could have been corrupt. We had those opportunities. My wife can testify. People coming home because of digital migration with cash, with money, promising you $250,000 US to educate your children, and you tell them, I'm not failing to educate my children. If it means taking them to Chamboli or wherever, I'll take them there. Because you are the same people tomorrow who will be saying, after all, we paid him money. Now, most of those things of corruption have to do with the way you're brought up.
Absolutely.
Whether you like it or not. I know people say we need very strong institutions of governance, strong ACC, strong judiciary, strong whatever. But as long as people in leadership themselves don't value those, they can dismantle these institutions. They can compromise these institutions.
You don't even
that's why I believe corruption has to do with people. And you begin to see certain people sneaking their way into power, into areas of authority. But some of them are natural crooks. Some of them are natural crooks. They are natural thieves. Wherever you take them, they'll still steal. And suddenly they find a compromised platform where they can find space. You give them a chance, they'll get there. But that is their nature.
Yeah.
That's the way they were brought up. You know, that's why I'm happy on Camnet Television here, where I strongly believe that if you have faith in Jesus Christ, to me is the best protection against a corrupt heart.
Yeah.
Because the heart of man is desperately wicked. It can do the most desperate things, including killing people for money.
Yeah.
But anchor yourself in Jesus.
Yeah. Before we go on break, just quickly related to that, there was so much money in few hands. I mean, the young lady, I don't want to mention her name, she had so much question. The people had so much question. Was this from corruption or was money being printed?
I doubt. Well, maybe yes or not, because we saw the high inflation. Normally, the trigger for inflation, printing money, if you look at inflation, where we reached 23.2%.
Yeah.
No, that was one of the highest figures of inflation. And that high inflation rate in May happened at the time of bumper harvest of 2.7 million metric tons of maize. And all of us in the economic analysis were very, very confident that whatever happens now, because of the bumper harvest, prices will be subdued. It never happened. So there's something else was countering that. So, but I can't point a finger on that. You know, printing money is not really about the machine running. Printing money. The Bank of Zambia has got what they call paper. This is the same money, but it's called paper. It's stationary. They call it stationary, and until it goes into the system, that's when it now converts to money. So it's actually there. They just release it, but they have denied it. They have said no, we didn't do that. And people have had access to money coming from different avenues. It's sad that we are talking. I don't want to talk about my young lady because my heart bleeds. You know, she's my young lady. But that is that's what happens when you land yourself in the hands of the wicked. You know, that's why, Frank. Now I'll say this. And it's because on Camnet I can say this, that always walk with God.
Right.
He protects you from the wicked. The moment you walk out of God in something, you become vulnerable. You become vulnerable, you become manipulatable, because the hedge that God gives you is removed around you. And however, whether you're a pastor, you're a song leader, you're whatever, suddenly you are very vulnerable and people wonder, but you used to worship with us, you used to pray with us. Well, how can they be there? Because the protection of God is no longer with you. You are now vulnerable to the most wicked people, and they'll abuse you. And I'm really saying that the answer to all this, to me, is Jesus. So all the printing of money, well, not printing of money, all the money that was in wrong hands, it explains why we are where we are today. And corrupt societies empower the wicked. And you make you who is honest begging these wicked people, and you are kneeling before them to give you handouts. You know, this is where we have cartels, individuals who now manipulate systems, they manipulate the institutions of governance. But we are recovering, and I'm very confident that going forward, Zambia is recovering.
Brilliant.
That's the most important thing that we should ever aim at.
Brilliant. When we come back after the break, I want you to delve into these dates, how the government is going to get out of this, if it will, what economic activities should they put in place to start moving the pendulum in the right direction. This is Frank on Camnet with my good friend CHIBAMBA, KANYAMA, an economist, business consultant, broadcaster. We're just picking bits and pieces of what stood up, economically in 2021. And when we come back, where does this government go? Which sectors do they invest in? How do they create employment? How do they deal with the data? So many issues. Join us very shortly.
Hi there. SGK Properties wants to remind you that there will be life after the festivities. That's why we are here right now presenting you an opportunity to invest in what will literally last you a lifetime. We have various plot sizes in Kabangwe area, just 6.7 kilometers from 6 miles roundabout. Plot sizes range from 20 by 20s, 25 by 20s, 30 by 20s, 35 by 20s, 40 by 20s, 40 by 23s, and 40 by 35s. We also have 1-acre plots located in Lusaka West, 22 kilometers from Lumumba Road on Mongwe Road, going for 180,000 kwacha. Remember, the option to have your dream house or passive income investment property constructed for you with modern finishes and quality care is also available. For more details on acquiring these pieces, contact us on 0762 166018 or scan the QR code you see on the screen to access us on WhatsApp directly. SGK Group, serving generations through knowledge.
This is Frank on Camnet. My guest, CHIBAMBA KANYAMA. There's only one big question in the last 15 minutes or so. We've tabulated, the shocks in the economy. What does this government do now? How do they deal with the debt? How do they create, jobs? So many things. Where do they start from?
The answer is in the approach that's taken now. I know I'm reading a lot of sentiment that they are liars, they come with promises. I don't want to delve into that.
No.
Whether President HH wanted it or not, whether he wanted to provide his promises and fulfill them, you can't fulfill them now.
It's impossible.
No, you can't. However much you want to fulfill them, you can't. You first fix it. You first put the house in order. And putting the house in order is biting the bullet. Being realistic about the issues and addressing them head on. So the engagement with IMF has been a highly debated issue, and I personally believe it's not the best option.
Okay.
And I always use the analogy that IMF is actually an ambulance.
Okay.
IMF, you don't call IMF when you're healthy and strong. IMF always comes like a hospital to do what we call Article 4 every year. That's a health check. Yeah. They tell you manage your BP, manage it, stop eating this, start eating this, start exercising, which I've been doing for Zambia for a long time now. But when you don't follow those instructions and you end up where we are, then they no longer come as advisors, medical advisors. They come as an ambulance. It's not good news. Because when they come as an ambulance, the chances of survival are not 100% anymore. But of course, you are happy they are here. You are happy the ambulance is, at least gives you comfort that the survival chances are higher than they were before the ambulance came in.
You talked about the option?
Yeah, many options. Yes.
Please, there are many options. Run them through.
But two of them. Number one, the Zambian people simply say, we have a problem here. We have a problem here. Why the problem? We got debt. We are choked. We almost what we earn in taxes goes to pay creditors. We have even defaulted on them because there are so many of them. It's a big problem. It's not our money, it's people's money. Do we want to resolve it? We have no choice. We have to resolve the debt issue. We are a sovereign country. We can't be entangled in debt. We have to pay back. How do we do it? As Zambian people, we want to develop a national fund, tax fund. Government, we want to pay this. We farmers want to contribute more in taxes than we have been contributing. We civil servants want to give more in taxes than we have been giving before. We business people want to pay more taxes on corporate taxes than we have been doing before. We employees want to give more taxes. The people at the markets in Soweto say, we are tired of this in Congole. We are willing to voluntarily pay taxes. We have been running away from paying tax. We want to pay, and we shall pay double than we have been paying before. We must pay the price, come out of this from ourselves without an outsider coming in.
Why then are they condemning removal of subsidies?
That's the price we have to pay. Because this is what to call a reality check.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to come. In fact, I used to write a lot. Those people have been following me in the past 4 years. I've been very consistent. It's there in News Diggers. It's there on my Facebook page. I said what we are doing now is postponing the problem to the future. One person will still pay it. But when we pay it, we'll pay it in a very big way than we would have paid now. So it's happening. It's happening. We are paying the price. In fact, we haven't yet started paying the price.
Absolutely. PF was pursuing the same IMF package. Are you surprised that they've been the front runners in terms of condemning this?
Not President, but Mr. Mutati actually said, before I would deliver the IMF program, not Mutati, the minister, Dr. Badyangandu,
Yeah.
just before the elections in June.
Absolutely.
I have quoted him, Daily Mail have written an article there, and I've quoted exactly. He said, I will deliver the IMF program before the 12th August elections.
Absolutely.
And they were very consistent. They issued a statement which I've replayed, that we have now to realign the economy, we have to meet, we are on the course to do ABCD as demanded, and the IMF warned that we are not being serious and then we shall do ABCD. So the program of IMF started. This letter, the letter of intent, the letter requesting for IMF program was not issued by UPND government. It was issued in 2019 by the PF government.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So all governments must be responsible for what has happened. I don't want to blame one or the other. For me, it's just a matter of accepting the fact that the reality has now come. But that reality must be managed well. We have to manage it very well as a country. There's need for understanding. I know Council, you interviewed Council, State Council Sangwa, who really said something else. But I personally will say we need to just manage it. There's room to manage it well, and it requires managing because issues have been heavy on this. They came and found things are not all right, and a lot of things have to be rectified.
If you put
it's not a political issue.
If you put in your heart as a broadcaster, should they be managing information flow?
That is
better than they're doing today.
Definitely, they should be managing it better. Engaging, and there's a chance, there's room to do that, and it should be done not only for 1 month, for 2 months, it should be done for the entire period of the IMF program.
Brilliant.
Because it will be moving from stage to stage. Of course, to become lighter by 2023, things begin to be lighter, and in the 36th month, around there, after 3 years, things will really be lighter. And everybody will say, we're back. Things are working. We never thought we would survive. People will survive. And we shall come out of it. But the program the IMF program that this government has put in place, to me, is much easier to manage than the other option which I talked about. Because the other option talks about us paying more taxes on our own. But the IMF is providing that relief to ensure that we restructure these dates and pay over a longer period of time, provide the relief to government, what we call the headroom, physical space. In other words, to have more money now, because it's not paying so much in the date, it will have more money now to spend on education, to spend on health. Hospitals have got no medicine. And they need to start spending that money from next year in the hospitals. People should go in the hospital and find the medicine. People should go have their children to school and educated. People should be employed. We have 41,000 people coming on board. That is a way of relieving people. I would rather pay higher fuel price, but have my brother who wasn't in employment employed.
Absolutely.
The benefit is more in having my brother who trained as a nurse or as a teacher employed more than what I'll be paying in terms of fuel increase or electricity. So the way they're managing it is good, but there is need to explain to the people. By the way, he did it well because he did it early. He did it early. Do it when you still have people's mandate. Despite what people are saying, my view and assessment, I'm still correct on this. He still has a mandate, actually. He still, despite the narrative we are reading, he still has the president and UPN still have very strong mandate of the people. They still have a lot of goodwill. Ride on that goodwill. Do it quickly. You will lose people. There will be a fallout. Some people will fall out. They will not like you. But you have 3 years to correct things. After 3 years, change things around, then everybody is happy and things are back to normal.
Which economic activities should they embark on? And where do you see employment being created? Which sectors?
Government has apparently outlined that, and that's why it's projecting a growth rate of about 3.7% or 3.5. 3.5 for next year. It's projecting that growth rate based on outlined industries. And number one is agriculture. I'm really praying to God that these rains don't disappoint, because if they come and we have some kind of agriculture output, it will create jobs. Tourism should create. Now, COVID has come in impact on tourism. That was what was projected. So tourism, manufacturing, financial sector, the ICT. We have the mining sector itself. It will still grow, especially now with these new concessions. Manufacturing itself will grow, and especially if it goes into value additions. So I'm seeing growth coming from almost all the sectors, except tourism if this COVID impact persists. But all other sectors should grow. If the weather is in our favor, agriculture shall grow. So all those are factored already in the 2022 budget. And I'm anticipating that we should realize the 3.5 growth rate. Now, what that translates to is employment.
What are your expectations from the government to ensure that the private sector plays a massive complementary role?
And again, that's another comfort I have with the government budget for 2022. The fiscal deficit is coming down to about 5.6%, I think, 5.6% projected. I can't remember the number. Now, what that means is that government will have less money to borrow next year. We don't need government to go into the market to finance its operations because it is a common phrase, crowding out the private sector. So what that should do is, first of all, stabilize a lot of other factors. I know the contention is that the monetary policy rate has gone up to increase credit. The biggest enemy is inflation. Tackle inflation first. The moment you tackle inflation, it has impact on the exchange rate. It has impact on interest rates because commercial banks will always lend above inflation rate. So you tackle inflation first, and that's why monetary policy, fiscal policy should come together. What used to happen before was that monetary policy became the answer. So you had Bank of Zambia always responding with monetary policy to stabilize the economy because the fiscal side was indisciplined. We are not sticking to the budget, we are just expending anyhow. So you had this outcry, I can't do this anymore, you know, because the monetary policy is like a baby. You know, when babies are born, they've got high temperature, the mother will have this wet cloth and put on the baby. That is not treatment. That's what Bank of Zambia does. It just cools the temperature. But that is not treatment. The treatment is the real thing, fiscal policy. But fiscal policy was compromised because there was no discipline there. And but now this new government, what you do to support private sector, be disciplined on the fiscal side, stick to the budget, stabilize the economy. That will lower inflation, lower interest rate, stabilize exchange rate, stabilize growth. Everything comes into place. Then private sector automatically responds.
Was it you talked about tourism? Was it prudent for this government, you know, to return, you know, Zambia was, you know, which was signed by the previous government? Really? When tourism sector has been hit badly by COVID?
I gave my position much earlier before this came into place. There is a benefit in that Zambia Airports Corporation may have more traffic. That's an anticipation. More traffic, more revenue, okay, for the country somehow. However, I'm not a keen follower of government being in business.
Absolutely.
I don't support that. I know there are Zambians there who feel strongly about it. I don't.
It should not mean business.
I don't.
You know, I remember Chiluba saying, you know, the government has no business to be in business.
It only goes areas where the private sector is not going in. That's the role of government. It goes where, but it don't compete with the private sector. What is the use of competing with ProFlight?
Absolutely. Before I ask you the final question about the lessons from 2012, I want you to talk to the people, and because individually we have a role to play, not just the government. We as individuals. How do we play that role? How do we change this culture of over-dependence on the government, personal indiscipline? Just put it in perception.
Number one, let us not be dependent on government to employ us. Personally, I have a lot of people telling me, CHIBAMBA, you'll be appointed, and I keep telling them what I'm doing now is much more important in my assessment. What I'm doing now as Bridges Limited is a bigger contribution to the government than if I were going to be whatever. I believe that is my role. And every Zambian should be active in entrepreneurship. Let those who are talented in managing civic issues, government policy, let them go. The rest of us who have got an entrepreneurial mind, let us do. There is much more value with SMEs contributing to the country's economy. So I want to urge the small SMEs, you are not playing a small role. Just begin to manage your business better. Stabilize your business. Don't only just make the money. Put systems in your business and grow. Let Zambians begin to see opportunity wherever they are. Look at your talent. What has God given you? How can I monetize this and make money out of what God has given me? You know what? There's value. There's demand for anything of value. Anything of value. I always joke to people. You go to Wangwa Valley and get cow dung of an elephant.
Yeah.
Elephant dung.
Yeah.
Dried. Go to Ngombele and get roots from Ngombele and mix them. Put them in a sack and take them at arcades on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Put them like a bed. And advertise that this is elephant dung from one of the hottest places in Wangwa Valley. With Mungoyo from Ngombele and you sleep on here, the blood flows nicely. I can assure you here, tourists will sleep there.
Yeah.
$200 per hour.
Yeah.
I think, I don't want to say this because I said it 20 years ago and people are not happy with me. But allow me to say, it's not right. But let me just say, poverty is a choice.
Yeah.
We choose it. But of course, there are people who don't have that opportunity. We should help them to begin to see that they can actually survive from whatever they do. It's a hard call, but we can make it.
Absolutely.
We can make it. Thank you.
Before we started the show, you were telling me that never again, to go back to what was happening prior to 12th of August. What lessons taking us forward?
The Bible says, what shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world and lose his own soul? Unfortunately, there are so many people who are ready to lose their souls for mammon, for money.
Yeah.
Money is important. We've just been talking about it right now. It's critical. But there are people who are ready to sell this country, to destroy a country out of greed. Greed. Human greed, selfishness, not even care. I don't understand. At times I say, how were they born?
Yeah.
How were they brought up? Where did they go? It's obscene. It's wrong. You don't have to be taught by anti-corruption commission or by government system. Your own conscience. There's nothing greater than a conscience.
Yeah.
So I believe even when we choose leadership as a country, let us also not be corrupt in our hearts. Let us not be short-sighted. Let us think about the future in choosing leadership. Who means well? Who got integrity? These things can never be substituted for anything. Integrity, integrity, integrity restores a nation.
What message do you have for this driver called President Hakainde Hichilema and his co-drivers in government?
Listen more. That's it. I can't say more. Listen more, even from the inconsequential. There are people who want to control the president. It's not his fault, but there are people who always want to control the presidency. From the time he went to power, I have not sought to see him.
Yeah.
I have
You've
not.
left him?
I've left him.
Okay.
But I know one day. I know one day.
Yeah.
I'll have a platform to chat with him.
Are you praying for him?
I do. And I want him to succeed.
Excellent.
Absolutely, 100%.
Excellent.
Yeah, he means well. And I know he means well. And I'll just say, Your Excellency, just listen more. Even from that little girl you are embracing in Changombo, listen to that girl. She still has a story. Yeah.
What is CHIBAMBA in 2022? That's part of the question. What discussions will you be having with Jesus, with God, as we leave 2021 and transcend into 2020?
Young people. My passion, my heart is for young people. I bleed for young people. I pray for young people. I want them to have jobs. I want them to succeed in their businesses. I want them to be well mentored. I just want young people to be 1,000,000 times better than us. But they depend on us to guide them well. So I'll be putting a lot of my energies, grooming, coaching, mentoring, supporting, and at times employing young people.
I'll be coming back to Jesus again. Financial management, conference this Thursday. Please tell us
this is a free one. I do it every year at Cresta Golf U, but this time I thought it should be online. I asked for only 100 people, but we now have about 2,000 who have registered to come to participate virtually on Thursday. We want to do budgeting for 3 hours to each family, wife, husband, those who are single on their laptops. Brilliant. I've sent them materials already, including the budgeting too. And I will be taking them through slowly how to set goals for next year, how to plan, so that people can even plan for the spending of their school-going children for January 2023. We will plan all that together as families. I won't leave them until they have done it on Thursday.
If you leave, when you leave this site, you go outside. I asked my guests, these questions. Sounds basic, but I just, love it. Then outside you bump into Jesus. What issues did you raise with him?
Jesus, help me get something for the young people. Yeah. I just want Jesus to come through. Yeah. I battle every day. What answer do we have for the young people? Yeah. They're desperate. They're hungry. They want something to happen to their lives. Yeah. I can't employ them all. Yeah. But Jesus, give me the energy, the power, the wisdom to find a solution.
Brilliant. I thank you for appearing on my show, the last show for this year, and thank you for being part of my journey.
Amen.
For the last 51 years.
Congratulations. By the way, tomorrow is my anniversary. Brilliant. I don't know how many long I've been married. I think 31 years tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. This has been Frank On Camnet with my good friend CHIBAMBA KANYAMA, economist, business consultant, broadcaster, family man of the young people. Thank you for watching. I keep on saying this every time. Okay, first let me thank the executive producer, Pastor Chilula, and the wife, and my wonderful crew. I've been with them now for a long time on this show. Of course, you viewers, without you, it's a futile exercise to be, on TV. My final phrase in 2022: do your very best. God will do the rest. I thank you. Good night.